So this is my first podcast.
Wait, hold up. No, you're gonna have to redo this.
What you want to
I
do?
wanna blur my background. How do I do that?
Oh, you gotta go on to
I know I am. Preferences.
no, video settings. And then I guess it's in the preferences too. And then you go onto background and filter, and then there's like virtual backgrounds and you do blur. But if your Zoom isn't updated, there's a chance that you don't see it. So you can do like virtual, just like background, like bay or grass.
Okay, hold up. Touch up appearance. Definitely. Check that box.
Are you new to Zoom?
No, I'm new to this computer.
Oh. Wait, did you get it? Did you get the new one?
No, this is my old computer.
Oh, I see. But your face is like, do you see yourself?
Yeah, why does it look like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's identifying your face as a face. Is there no blur?
Is this background like too messy? I feel like it's too messy.
No, it's actually okay.
Okay.
I like my blur. Maybe like hide your hats or something.
Whoa, what's wrong with my hats?
Well, it's just a lot of stuff in the back. You're asking if it's messy. Oh.
Okay.
Well, you look nice. Did you get ready for the podcast? Or for me?
For you.
Dude, I was just editing our Banquito vlog. It's coming in nicely. We're kind of funny. I gotta admit that.
Okay. Well, it's not gonna be blurred because evidently I don't have it updated. So.
Okay. Yeah, I always touch up my appearance. Anyway, I mean, you could probably tell from the smoothness of my skin. All right, well, welcome to my first podcast. Thank you, Emily, for joining me in this first podcast episode. I was listening to All-in-One podcast, I think 3 days ago or 3 nights ago, because that's how I usually end my night. And I was thinking to myself, like, well, I want to expand my YouTube channel. And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts these days. So why not do something for myself, like my lifestyle and people that I am in touch with? And that's how I messaged Emily that night. I was like, would you be interested in joining me as a guest? And so thank you for being my guinea pig, basically. We'll see how this goes. I mean, it's really just going to be about like living together, because you know how I lived in the single room really most of my college life. And then you live with someone in your college, but then like now we're adulting after graduation. And then we're kind of like finding whether we're like compatible. And I think personally we were compatible, but I'm not trying to be biased or like have you be biased and like kind of speak the way that I think. But I do think that it's worth discussing like how our lifestyles matched or did not match. Because it's something that a lot of people would or might be struggling or be curious about. So yeah, that's our topic of the podcast.
Yeah, and how like, you know, I'm your favorite roommate ever that you ever had.
Yeah.
You only had like one.
Well, when I was studying abroad, there were 2 flatmates with me, but like we barely hung out because we had different friend groups. We also have different friend groups, except we don't really have friends. So we have no friend groups. Just kidding. We didn't have any friend group, or I didn't have any friend group in LA back when I was there. But yeah. So it's kind of different, I would say. And yeah, I would say though, overall, you are the best flatmate that I've ever had.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, but I want to go back to something that you said. You said how, you know, like we're adulting now after college. And I think you're definitely adulting. You know,
Yeah.
I'm still a full-time student. So, you know, I'm a dental student. I go to UCLA. And it's really interesting because I have this conversation with, my friends that are working like all the time. And even though, I graduated from college, actually 3 years ago, I feel like I'm like half an adult. Because again, like I'm still a full-time student, just, at the graduate level, and I don't have a full-time job. I don't file my own taxes. I'm nowhere close to like getting my own car or even house. And so I feel like a big part of me is still stuck, not stuck per se, but it's still living as like a student,
Right.
And it's so interesting because, when I talk to my friends who are like Jennifer, who are working full time, like, building their successful career up, um, it's different because, I've never even had like my first real job, and I won't have that for another few years. And if I do residency, I'll be closer to 30 before I, start like my real first actual job in the profession that I'm choosing to pursue. And sometimes I feel like there's quite a bit of a disconnect because, when I talk to my colleagues in med and dental school, we're kind of like in the same boat, like we understand each other. We know what it's like to, still be in school and have, everyone else like kind of start their lives already. But, I think a lot of that there's still a lot of overlap, right? Like just because I'm a full-time student and Jennifer is like a full-time, more than full-time. She works like 30 jobs. I have no idea how I have no idea.
Hey, wait, hold on. I'm going to censor this because not everyone knows about that.
Okay, censor. That's a secret. There's still a lot of overlap, right? Because we're still living on our own, living in apartments, potentially living with, roommates, like living our own lives and meal prepping, and I don't know, boys or not or what am I going to say? Lack of boys thereof. What's the saying? Like, yeah, lack of whatever. Yeah. And so in a way, like it's still very similar, right? Because we're practically the same age. We were born in the same year. So I think it's pretty interesting to look at the parallels and like the differences between being a full-time student and like adulting, but also kind of adulting at the same time,
Well, okay, so first of all, I totally forgot to ask you to introduce yourself. You introduced yourself like in the process, so thank you for that. So let's go back to when we first met. And I was still on campus at Middlebury when
let me tell you how we first met, okay? So this girl messages me. She's like, "Hey, Emily, I'm going to have some packages delivered. Could you bring them in?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure." And so I come home, right? And this like huge, like, I don't know your audience age, but let's just say this huge box, like in front of the front building door, not even like the apartment door. And it's like, and I'm like, it's quite the package. It's not like I'm gonna bring it in. And it's like 50 pounds, like actually 50 pounds. I'm like, what is she like shipping?
Yeah.
No, but I get it. Like you were moving out, so I did the same thing too. I shipped some stuff home, but it was just so funny because when you had said package, I was like, oh, it's like a Sephora package or whatever. And I was like,
I think one or two were from Zara, right? And then the other one.
Yeah, that was later on, but it was the first package that was like, huge, and I was
like luggages and
yeah,
good times.
Yeah,
good times. I moved in, and I was like cat sitting my sister's kitten, and I had no idea how to do that. And then I met you,
and I don't really,
and then I think I was like very paranoid about COVID. Like, remember like how I would wear a mask inside and like pretty much quarantine myself for 2 weeks.
I mean, you were supposed to do that though.
Yeah, but it just wasn't like or governed, or I guess supervised by the government. Like,
yeah, right. It's not like Asia where like they'll like literally send like a police after you.
Yeah,
or track your movements.
So I think it was after those 2 weeks and once you came back, I think from like somewhere, that we got to like talk more, and then we got to cook, which I think was like a highlight of my life in LA.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I had some raw meat here and there. It was
What do you mean raw meat? It was so
okay, raw rice. My bad.
Oh,
Crispy
raw rice, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very undercooked. But overall, like the food that we would cook for each other was really nice. And I think that's something that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we had some really great meals. We had some work in progress meals, but I think for me, just like taking turns and cooking for each other really helped me expand, you know, my comfort zone in terms of like cooking. Because you know, if I was just cooking for myself, I can eat the same thing. You know, like I was like whatever. But if I'm cooking for someone else, then you know, like I put more thought into it. Like, okay, let me try making, you know, this cuisine. You know, that let me try something from this cuisine that I've never made before. So I think that was definitely really good, and definitely expanded like my cooking palette as well.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about compatibility and how we had like different status. Like you were a full-time student. I was technically employed, but I wasn't working. Remember, like I would wake up.
You were chilling.
I was very chilling. And sometimes I wish I could go back because I think I kind of took that for granted. But you know, like how despite all that, all those differences, we would like go thrifting in LA, waste all the money that I had. But yeah, I think it's really important to like look for someone or kind of like figure out whether your roommate or your roommates are compatible with or align with your interests. Because you and I have similar interests like in fashion, food. I mean, we literally have, or my econ foodie account is inspired by your dental.
Inspired, bro? You mean excuse me? You mean copied? Anyways,
Okay,
isn't there like a TikTok that's like, oh, don't make it look like you copied them, but like, you know what I mean? Do you guys know what I mean? No? Okay, whatever. I'm like too much of a millennial for this. Oh, this is like super interesting. So we're born in the same year, right? But
right.
I think I'm just on the tail end of being a millennial, and Jennifer is very Gen Z. So we're like super different in that sense, but it's crazy because, you know, age-wise, we're pretty much the same age. But I have a little sister, and I can tell like Jennifer and my little sister are like, you know, in the same generation. Like they're very Gen Z. They're like TikTok.
She was not born
like
in the same year as us.
And I'm like Facebook, you know, I'm like old school Facebook. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. You know?
I remember that one time, I think it's also on my TikTok, when I went to Beverly Center with no cash, no wallet. I just took my phone because Westfield Century City has a free an hour free parking, right? And I thought it was the same or it would be similar in other centers too. And then I went to the parking, realized I had to pay $1. I didn't have $1 worth of cash. And so I was just waiting until I was running into
Wait, did you at least have your license though?
Pretty sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yo, these Gen Z people thinking like their phones can do everything. I don't know. Like I feel like I would never leave the house without a card or cash.
Yeah, so that's I learned it the hard way.
That's like, it's like wired in me, you know? Like I would never, I think that's like such a generational gap thing, you know? Like, I don't know. Like even to this day, I don't really use Apple Pay, even though like I can. I'm so used to like taking my card out and like,
but Apple Pay is so convenient. I know it's like Apple is very much transforming with like financial, what's it called? Pointless payment system. I actually forgot the exact term, but it also just started having Clipper card within Apple Wallet.
Oh yeah, no, they've had that for a while.
Oh, I just saw the news yesterday. Maybe I'm
never mind. They must have not had it for a while. I thought they did though.
Yeah, but I'm very much of a supporter of Apple Wallet. So, like when I actually found a stranger, or when I ran into a stranger, I asked her, like, can I sell you $1?
Wasn't there one time you went to Ralph's and you forgot? Like,
I forgot. Yeah.
You forgot, money again, and I went to Ralph's like.
Yeah. Why did
for your groceries?
Did I just forget to bring my wallet? Yeah, I did. And I was like, can you bring me my wallet?
Yeah.
Good times. Honestly, yeah, I think I was pretty oblivious. Is that the right term to describe yourself?
It's a good general term for you. No, but I think like something to keep in mind is that we didn't choose each other as roommates though.
Right.
I think it just so happened, like we were, in a way, like it just so happened that we were going to be roommates. Like it was out of both of our controls.
Yeah.
But I think it just ended up working out. But it's not like I wouldn't say you and I are very similar, to be honest. Like I think we're actually very different in a lot of senses.
Okay.
But I think also in a lot of ways we think similarly. And I think that we share a lot of the same values, So even though we, have pretty different interests, we work in very different professions. I think because, like we share similar values in certain ways and we do have some similar interests, I think that's definitely like enough, So I don't know, like I feel like you don't have to like be the exact same person as like a potential roommate to get along with them, And I mean, I remember in college, I had these two friends who, they were like randomly paired up with each other. And let me tell you, they were like night and day. Like they were so different in terms of like study habits, personality, background. They were so different. And I think part of the reason why they got along was because of their differences. Like they would share with each other, oh, this is how I do it at home, or like, oh, this is what I do. And they would inspire each other to like get into certain things. So like one inspired the other to like start going to the gym, and then the other one, inspired the other to like play this really nerdy game. And it was just so interesting to see like them pick up on each other's hobbies. Because they were never exposed to them before, right? Like they're like, whoa, like I didn't even know what this was, but hey, I actually really like it. So
how do we end up playing tennis? Was it either of our hobbies? No.
Tennis?
I don't think so. I think
okay, so at some point. So for me, I played a little bit of tennis in middle school. And when I say little, I mean like little, like smaller than my pinky, like very little. Like I know like probably just a bare minimum, like basics.
Yeah.
But I can't, execute it very well. So, but I still have my tennis racket like from middle school. And let's be real, I did not grow that much since middle school. So even though I think it's a kid's racket, it still like kind of fits me.
I couldn't even tell it was a kid's racket.
Yeah, well, my friend said it was a kid's racket. But like, and I was like, I really want to like pick up tennis again because in the future, like my future adult life, like when I get a man's and stuff, like I think it'd be really fun to like, go out and play tennis together, or we can play like, doubles against like another, couple or whatever. But yeah, that's how I wanted to play tennis. I don't know about you, or maybe like I was just like, yo, you want to play tennis? And you're like, okay, I got nothing else to do. So
okay. That's a part of it. But I also did play tennis in elementary and high school as a hobby. So, we're sort of on the same page, I guess. At least I didn't know like how to like hold a racket properly, but we did swing a few times, like
we had a couple good rallies. Yeah.
Couple, yeah. Have you improved at all?
No, I haven't played since I sprained my wrist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I do think it's really important to find someone who inspires you. I mean, I'm living alone now, so I'm inspiring myself.
And it's important to be willing, right? To be inspired. You know, I mean, it's a two-way street. You can have one person asking the other person, like, hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? But if you just keep saying no,
yeah, then
eventually person A is going to stop extending the hand, right?
Yeah. So it's
I
like
think,
a mixed opportunity if you decide.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's important. And if you're wondering why I'm leaning to this way, because Jennifer is saying that my hats look messy, so I'm like trying to cover it like with head, you know.
It's not the hats that look messy, it's the arrangement of.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's my arrangement of the hats that look messy.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, I just want to make sure that our first podcast is as presentable as possible. So
no, I mean, if you wanted to give me like 2 minutes, I could have updated my Zoom so I can blur my background, okay?
All right. So so let's talk about the importance of my presence living under the same roof. How has it
ain't that important?
Well, let's think about what we used to do together and then things that aren't there anymore. You know, like food.
Okay.
Because we used to cook every weekend or something, right?
For sure. I think, you know, like when you're young, and you're always like, oh my God, like, Mom, can I like go to the sleepover? Or like, oh, can my friend like sleep over? And that was like, I don't know, for me, it was like a highlight of like elementary and like middle school days, right? Like when you had a sleepover, it was like, oh my God, it was like so much fun, you know? And like, why is it so much fun? It's because you get to spend like a long time with, you know, a good friend, right? Like you can stay up late talking, you can like, I don't know, do activities together, like do your nails together. And I think when you live with like a friend, it's kind of like a sleepover every day, you know? Yeah. And I think one of the biggest differences between living cordially with a roommate and being friends with that roommate is exactly that, right? Because I think so, you know, I think you can have a roommate, live peacefully with them, and not really be friends with them. And it works out, right? Because you know, you're compatible in terms of like living, right? Like you both you know, clean dishes and you have a schedule on, you know, vacuuming, and you know, you're on the same page with like the temperature setting and having people over and all that. Like you're great roommates, right? You get along super well, but you're not friends at the end of the day. As in, you don't hang out, right? Like you don't eat together, you don't do any activities together. You just kind of both go into your own rooms, and there's that, right? And that's fine. You know,
there's nothing wrong with that.
And then I think, you know, you can room with the friend. Like you can go into living with someone knowing that person and being really good friends with them. But that also doesn't mean that you're going to be good roommates, right? Like I could be best friends with someone, but we can have completely different living habits. And that's tough, right? Because on one hand, they're your friend, and, you know, you don't want to be like really mean to them and confront them about everything. But on the other hand, you are living with that person 24/7. And some things like you have to bring up if it's not working, right? So like, I don't know, for example, like dishes. I feel like dishes is a really big thing. And I think like roommates have a lot of trouble with that because everyone has like their own perspective on when/how to do dishes. You know, I mean, I've heard so many complaints like, oh my gosh, like my roommate, you know, hasn't done the dishes for like 2 days, and there's just been sitting in the sink, like, and it smells and it's taking up room. Like I can't, you know, wash my hands or wash or cook because all the dishes are in the way, right? Or there's like the other, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, like my roommate just the dishes are still dirty like after they wash it. And so it's like really awkward because, you know, I've already brought it up to them. So I've just been like rewashing their, you know what I mean? So there are like these small nuances that just don't work out, even if you are good friends with that person. And then, you know, I think you can be good friends with that person and be good roommates. And I think part of that like doesn't come naturally, you know? Like part of that definitely needs developing and sometimes like confrontation and accommodation to, you know, like to have things work out. So like I think for me, I think both Jennifer and my personality were like we're able to be confrontational, but I think we're also very polite about it if we do. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like there were definitely a few times that I brought things up to her or she brought things up to me. And then like and it didn't hurt my feelings. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings. But I don't think, you know, like we were like abrasive or, you know, rude when we brought them up. And I think it like made being roommates like a lot smoother because you don't know, maybe like you're doing something that you don't think is a big deal or you don't think is bothering someone else, but like the other person is bothered by it, right? And if you never bring it up, like it's only going to build resentment. Like every time that person does the thing, but they're not aware that they're doing it, you know? So you're building resentment in yourself, but you know, on one hand, like it's also kind of your fault for not being willing to, you know, communicate with the person and to bring up the issue, because it could just be a really, really small issue. I mean, you bring it up once, like they don't do it anymore and it's like, it's done, you know, it's you know, end of the story. Like it's good. Like you never have to deal with it again and happily ever after.
So right? I think the order in which we got to know each other kind of helped develop that relationship conveniently, in that we first had to set boundaries and like we had to sort of tell each other like our preferences, or I guess speak up. And I think one of the common characteristics that we have is being upfront about it. And so that was also very, I think, instrumental in this whole development of roommate / friendship or friends development.
But I guess that also kind of depends on like how picky you are with certain things.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if you're a really particular person and the person that you're living with isn't a very particular person, then that might be kind of difficult. You know, like if you're really type A and you know you're like very particular, like this dish, like this bowl needs to be in this spot in the cabinet, you know, and then if the other person's like, well, if it's dry, I'll put it up wherever, right? Like, why does it matter where it goes? Like, you know, stuff like that. Definitely small, but, you know, definitely impactful, like, you know, personality differences too. And I think that would be difficult, you know, if one person is particular and the other, like, is very chill, doesn't care. Because then, you know, the particular person is pretty much asking the other person to be very detail oriented and, you know, adapt to their behavior. And then whereas the more chill person is, you know, it is trying to tolerate, you know, like a very particular demanding. So I guess a good term to use for that situation is compromise. Like you would have to, as much as you want to have like your set lifestyles be consistent, because you're living with someone else, you have to acknowledge that and try to be loose. Was I a picky roommate? I think I'm a picky person. But I've learned to become less type A over time. I don't know how you feel about me, but I don't think you were as type A as I was. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm way more chill than you. No, I don't think like you were a picky roommate, and I think like we all have our quirks, you know, and we all have our like preferences, and I feel like, you know, there are definitely pickier people that I know. I'm not picky. I'll use the word particular. Particular people, right? Than you. But yeah, I mean, I think for me overall, I'm a pretty chill person to live with, in my opinion. But you know, like if I do have like certain things, right? Like just like be clean first of all, right? Like if you're gonna like have people over and you know you eat, right? Like just clean the table after, you know? Like I don't know, like little things like common sense things, you know? And I really think like just use common sense. Like think about like if you're gonna leave a common living space dirty or messy, just think about like how you would feel if when you walk out of your room and you're like, oh, like let me lie down on the couch and I don't know, have my coffee or whatever, but it's like dirty and messy with someone else's stuff, right? And it's like, bruh, like I don't know, you know, use common sense. I think that's the best way.
And then when you bring that up to that person who left the table dirty, that person might be self-defensive and be like, well, you know, I wouldn't mind if someone did this to me. So it's kind of like not really putting
red flag
shoes, right? Is it gaslighting or something? What's the term?
No, I mean, I think most of the times like it's an honest mistake, right? Like and also like, you know, give your roommate like the benefit of the doubt, like
right.
You know, and I think like for me, if I notice something, I'm not gonna bring it up like immediately because let's just use this for an example, right? Let's say your roommate had friends over and I left a mess. The next morning you wake up and it's like, what the heck, right? I mean, give your roommate the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe they had a really long evening and they were too tired to clean and they were gonna do it the next day. So I think waiting a little bit is definitely like good too, because you don't know like their side of the story, right? You don't want to like come off very accusational when you didn't even really give them a chance to like clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
So I think
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind too.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up because, well, I don't know for how long we've been talking, but I think we've hit the important points of living together. And hopefully this podcast was helpful for other people.
Probably not, but you know,
I'm pretty sure it's going to be helpful because, I mean, okay, it was just like 20 minutes long, but like living in LA with Emily was absolutely, like, obviously it was more than that. And for me, having lived in a single room on campus was very different from living with someone under the same roof for more than a semester worth of time. So I don't know if the podcast will serve the same purpose of like showing how I lived in LA with a roommate, but regardless, I hope it kind of gave a high level overview of how we live together.
So take home message, if you can choose your roommate, definitely FaceTime them, you know, before like signing a contract together. Make sure you're on the same page about like the important stuff, you know, like make sure that you're on like a similar vibe. You know, you don't have to be like the same person, but I would say like hit the important points, you know, like you know, what are your rules about like having people over? What, you know, is like, when do you sleep? You know, do you play loud music? Temperature, you know, are you a cold or hot person? Like how clean are you? Cleanliness, I think, is a huge thing. And I think like just, I don't know, like just use common sense, you know? And, you know, if you can choose your roommate, well, good luck. No, but no, if you, you know, if you can't choose your roommate, then obviously like try to hit it off on a good start at least. And, you know, if in either way, if like things really go south, like really goes south, it's, like moving out and finding a new place is not something that you should be ashamed of. Yeah, it's a hassle. It's it's annoying. And you might lose some money here and there, like a deposit. But if you're living there 24/7 every day, and if every day you're unhappy when you come home, then maybe you should do something about it, right? Because you go to work or you go to school and it's a long day, and all you want to do is come home and relax and chill. But if coming home gives you another headache, then do something about it.
That was a short story of my life when I first moved to the Bay.
True.
Good time.
But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching this podcast or listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it, like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm like, I see an increase in my subscribers.
Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah. So
Dental Foodie. Put it here, Jennifer. Like Dental Foodie.
So Dental Foodie posts a lot about dentistry and food. I think it's more dentistry now than food.
I think I try to do both, but appease both my audiences.
Yeah. So Emily is a smart dental student at UCLA. She went to Hopkins for undergrad. So obviously smart. And well, I actually don't see a lot of her posts on Dental Foodie, but she posts a lot of IG story of food. Oh, so that's where he posts food content. And then most of the posts these days are on dental school. Yeah. So if you enjoyed listening to her, feel free to follow her.
And if you don't, it's fine.
Nah, still check her Instagram. And yeah, it is true that my Instagram handle was inspired. It did not plagiarize. We were talking about this verbally that I possibly could rename my handle from something.
No. And all goodwill. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I encouraged her. So
yeah, I mean, I really didn't have anything to do in LA, and that was like one of the things that I could do. So yeah. All right. Well.
All right.
Thank you
guys for listening. And thanks for having me.
Yeah.